up your engine! Today I'm going to talk about some new technology in cars. In this case, this is a 2020 Toyota Camry TRD. I'm going to talk about how the engine works. Now as we open the hood, the first thing you're going to see is big old plastic cover, and what does it say? D4S V6. It's talking about the technology that's hiding under this plastic cover. There it is. That's what they call it, D4S. S standing for superior. Consists of two fuel injection systems. There's a port system that's on the intake like a normal old car, and then there's direct injectors that spray gas directly into the engine cylinders, bypassing the intake system. Now I know if you've been watching me for a while, you know, oh, Scotty, what's he talking about here? Hey, he's always saying, oh, this new complex technology, it's horrible. Well, it's only horrible if it doesn't work. Of course, you don't know if it works right till it's been out a while. So what about this new system in this particular Camry? Well, this is a 2020 Camry. The system isn't that new. Toyota started using it in 2007 in their Lexus, some of their fancy models. So this system's been around, sold to the public for 13 years so far. So it's not new. And hilariously enough, it's turned the tables on history. Back in the day, the Japanese in the 1970s, they were using Bosch German fuel injection systems. One of the early ones was the Zuzu. In the 1970s, Zuzu used the Bosch Jetronic fuel injection system in one of their cars. It was called the 117 Coupe, probably never even heard of it, but it was using the German Jetronic system made by Bosch. Well, this Toyota D4S system is now used in some Audis, so we've come full circle. Now, the Germans are using the Toyota Japanese design fuel injection system in their cars. Hey, what did I say? The world's turned upside down. This Toyota D4S system is also used in some Fords today. Seems to me it's a pretty good system. Now, in my own experience working on these things, I've yet to have to fix any problems in these systems. And like I said, they've been out for 13 years so far. I work on lots of Toyotas and Lexuses, and I haven't to work on any of these D4S systems for problems yet. So to me, it seems to be a pretty solid system. Complex? Yes. But reliable? Certainly seems to be. Now, the system starts with an electric fuel pump in a gas tank that gives fuel to both systems. Only the port fuel system uses that pump's pressure directly. The pump in the tank produces 51 to 73 pounds per square inch pressure, sends it to the engine. Now that fuel pump powers the fuel injectors on the intake. There's one of them right there, you can see it. This one right here is powered directly by that pressure. But that's not enough pressure for the direct fuel injectors, which require 425 to 725 pounds per square inch pressure. So hidden inside the engine is a secondary pump that's a high pressure pump that bumps the pressure up for the GDI direct injection injectors that need all that extra pressure. Now this isn't a relatively simple dual system like some of the systems people have where the port ones are used just to clean the valves. This system is truly a rocket science system. Sometimes it uses both systems, as when it's starting cold start, acceleration, cruising. It's all done by computers, and it changes all the time. Now, being a professional mechanic, I got fancy scan tools. When I'm driving a car, if I wanted, well, if somebody else was driving it, I could have my data plugged in, look at the screen, and I could see which system was actually operating. Sometimes both of them are operating at the same time, but it's all controlled by computers to make it most efficient. Because sometimes port injectors work better, sometimes the GDI injectors work better. Say if you're accelerating real fast, you want those GDIs to pump fuel in to get better acceleration. As they've got this set up, it is a pretty seamless system. This particular V6 puts out 301 horsepower, naturally aspirated, does not have a supercharger or a turbocharger on it. Since the system's been out sold to the public for 13 years, seems to me to be a pretty good system. Yes, it's complicated as can be. This isn't something that a backyard guy is going to be fixing when eventually something wears out, as everything eventually wears out from friction. That's just pure physics, which is probably why Audi and Ford are using it in some of their cars. They're like, oh geez, we can't figure out how to make a good system like this. Let's just buy it from Toyota. Just like a lot of the earlier hybrids. Toyota pretty much set the bar with the Prius. Then other companies like Ford, hey, their cars, they were pretty much the Toyota systems. They were using the same type of engines, same motors, same battery packs. Hey, rather than figure it out themselves, said, well, Toyota knows what they're doing. We'll buy their systems and put them in our cars. So now you know how the engine system works. Let's talk about the transmission. This baby has an 8-speed transmission in it. It's called a direct shift 8AT automatic transmission. As you can see inside, it's got a normal gear shift on it, but that's about the only thing normal about it. We'll start it up. You can just put it and drive it like a normal automatic. Or, if you want to do your own shifting, you can put it over here. Now here you have two choices when it's in S. You can shift it like a race car. These are straight shifts. If you go down, it goes down into the next lower gear. And then when you want to shift up, you push it like that. So you actually are shifting it. It's electronic, but it feels like a regular shifter. On a monitor, when I push it forward, it goes into the next gear. And it keeps going until you get into the final gear, which is 8. So you can shift it just like a race car. You're in 8, you want to downshift it a couple of gears. 1, 2. Or if you like to be more modern, it's got the paddle shifter. So you can shift right on the steering column. You can push it up, goes into gears, and then if you want to downshift, the opposite side is the minus. Then it goes down. I'm old school, so I like shifting it over here. Feels more like I'm shifting a regular car. The only thing you're missing is a clutch. And if you want to drive and control it without having to do anything yourself, you can put it in automatic mode and drive like this. If you want gas mileage, you can push the economy setting. It'll get the best gas mileage. You can put it on a normal setting. A little bit more pickup and a little bit less gas mileage, but still good. And then the ultimate sport mode, that if you want to do that, you can push the sport mode. Then you can push the traction control off. It warns you here, traction control's off, and you can drive like a maniac, like I normally do. Now yes, these are very complex transmissions, but again, they're not new. They started using these in 2016. So they've been out for, well, you can say 5 years now, 4 years, but car models are always kind of a year back, so about 5 years it's been out. And again, here's a big thing if you understand about automatic transmissions. This is not one of those dual clutch automatic transmissions of which many manufacturers have had horrendous problems, because they're really a standard transmission with 8 speeds if they're an 8-speed dual clutch, and they have 2 physical dry clutches, just like in a car with a clutch pedal. Only there's no clutch pedal. The physical clutches are engaged by hydraulics and electronics that a computer controls. So instead of your foot going up and down shifting, the computer's doing it all electronically. And those systems have had a plethora of problems as time goes on. Now take the German ZF company. They make 8-speed automatics. So when I made that video about the new Toyota Supra, being a BMW, it had that transmission in it. But that is also a conventional transmission like this. It has a torque converter. It is not one of these dual clutch transmissions. And as I said before, 2017, ZF sold 3.1 million of these 8-speed automatic transmissions. This is the same type of design. This is a Toyota design, but it is a real automatic transmission with a torque converter. It is not a dual clutch transmission system. As far as I can decipher, these dual clutch transmission systems, they seem to be kind of a failure. A lot of companies are going back to conventional type automatic transmissions because they hold up better, they seem to drive better, or they're using some type of hybrid one where it's got a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Some of these ones that have torque converters are even trying out electronic torque converters instead of having fluid ones that use fluid inside. If you have an electronic one, so they're more efficient. But to me, it seems that these dual clutch transmissions are not going to be the answer for any manufacturer in the long haul. It only makes sense that Toyota's developed their own 8-speed normal transmission that shifts itself but isn't a dual clutch transmission. If you know anything about clutches, whether you're shifting a clutch with your foot or a computer, these are dry clutches. The clutch plates wear out and eventually they need replacing, which is uber expensive. If it had been a dual clutch automatic transmission. Those clutches probably would have worn out 2 or 3 times, and you'll spend a fortune replacing them on one of those. Because on a dual clutch transmission, you can't just take it out, put the clutches and bolt it on. Then you have to have a factory dealer scan tool, and you have to reset it all. It's a very complex thing because the computer has to learn where the new touch points are for the clutch. It's just like you learned how to drive a standard. Every time you put a new clutch in one of those, the computer has to learn how to redrive that standard, and you cannot do it yourself. It's a very complex procedure. I don't know about you, but me, I'd rather have something like this. It's conventional. It might go hundreds of thousands of miles without any problems. All you gotta do is change the fluid every once in a while. And you don't have to think, oh man, those dual clutch friction plates are wearing out. It's gonna cost me a fortune to replace them. You don't have to think about it in this. This is a conventional type design. And as you're gonna see, it does work quite well. We'll start it up. Here we go, as I say, drive, sport, traction control turned off. We'll step on the gas. You can see it does go. Now we'll put it in the S, so we're shifting it ourselves and see what happens. Not really that much difference. If anything, it was a little bit slower. And guess what? The computer knows how to shift better than Scotty does. Yes, I have to admit, the machine has beaten me. I cannot shift as fast and have quite as much takeoff as the computer can, which has been programmed by experts to get the ultimate in takeoff and speed. Even young guys, fighter pilots, in the prime of their capabilities, they can't fly those fighter jets without computers. Nobody can react fast enough. And in this case, the transmission and computer beat the heck out of me. So if you really want to drive fast, forget trying to beat the computer. Put it in drive and sport and traction control off. Then all you got to do is steer the thing. It'll do the shifting a lot better than you can. So now you know the truth about some new technology in this Toyota, and also discovered that it may not be as new as you think it is. Been out a few years and has a pretty good track record. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.